The killing of women in Kenya has almost become a national disaster, with 97 women murdered in the months of August, September and October alone. And as the 16 days of activism continues across the globe, NTV gathered experiences from Oxfam-funded Kudeha and Teen Seed and filed the following report.
Our conversation begins with Winnie Obure. The founder of Teen Seed Africa is a story of resilience.
As a teenager, I was abused and it was horrible. Like, no one deserves to be abused ever in their life. But when that happened, I didn't have the necessary support that I needed to go through, just that, the ordeal. And so as part of, gosh, it is horrible. I just don't even want to think about it, yeah. I thought I can really speak about it, but it's still...
Winnie would establish the Teen Seed Africa, a community organization that works with young girls and adolescent women on issues around sexual reproductive health, sexual gender-based violence, and economic empowerment. She founded it 18 years ago as a teenager after the experience of abuse.
As a teenager, I was abused many times, and the worst ordeal was when I was in high school, in Form 3, where a family friend defiled me, and that was horrible. It's not something I would wish on anybody. So after that, I dropped out of school because the family friend was helping to pay part of my school fees. Like, I come from a really, really humble background, and he took advantage of me, right? And that was difficult. So in response, I started Teen Seed because as a teenager, you're not a child, you're not an adult, you are a teen. That's how the name came, like Teen Seed, because we believe that teens are seeds of greatness and that they need to be nurtured and mentored and supported and watered and given all the support and opportunities they need to thrive.
The Kenya Union of Domestic, Hotels, Educational Institutions, Hospitals and Allied Workers is a trade union advocating for safety of domestic workers. Kudeha believes domestic workers are most vulnerable in society, having to work in the private homes. According to Joan Gloria, the Assistant General at the union, they do not have the luxury of safety terms that other workers may be getting.
No one is allowed to walk into a private home of an employer to maybe do an inspection on their terms, on their environment, how they're being treated by their employers. So this is quite important for us because we want to let the world know that domestic work is work and it should be recognized to be given its good terms or decent work that it deserves.
Joan painting a further picture of a dire situation.
Just the other day, we saw that a nanny, a domestic worker, who jumped out of a storied building because of the violation she was going through by her employer. So this one, we first of all, as a union that represents workers, we want to condemn that kind of action with the strongest terms possible because that is a human, for crying out loud.
It is for troubled victims like such that Winnie's organization targets, if only to offer refuge after traumatic experiences.
We work in the communities, in the informal settlements like this one in Kiambio, with male champions of change. So we identify young men in the community, and we train and support them. We identify, mentor, support, train, and work with young men who are change makers in communities to help create awareness around gender-based violence and to promote women's rights in informal settlements and rural areas. So we do our sexual violence work in 3 ways. The first one is prevention. So under prevention, we work with the male champions and other community actors and key influencers in the community to largely do prevention. Number 2 is we do response and rescue. So we run 3 different shelters The first one is for teenage girls, so below 18 years, who have been abused, so they are survivors of violence. And we also run what we call the Freedom House, which is a shelter for abused women who are 18 years and above. And we have a transitional safe space where we take in girls or teenage girls when they are at risk or they're abused, and it's either late in the night or it's over the weekend, or it's at a time when they cannot be referred to like a shelter. The other part of the work we do is to do restoration. So we support survivors of sexual violence, both teenagers and younger women and young women, to reintegrate back in the community.
But providing such safe spaces comes with a fair share of challenges, they tell us.
As we talk of elimination of harassment and violation and harassment in the world of work, our country also, our government has not ratified the Convention number 190 that speaks into elimination of harassment and elimination of violence and harassment in the world of work. I have said earlier that domestic work is work.
The challenges I used to see then, the issues I used to see then, the abuse, the violence, the sexual harassment is still happening now. And even more is, the fact that women are even more killed. According to, statistics, femicide is on the high.
Vini says the failure by the system to arrest and prosecute perpetrators is aiding and abetting gender-based violence. Victims have to contend with interacting with their abusers long after their ordeal. This, they say, is the height of trauma.
The justice system in this country takes a very long time. So from the time it is reported to the time justice is served would take like approximately 5 years. And that's so much trauma that a survivor is living with, going to court every other time.
Joanne believes that while the incidents are criminal, the cause is a moral decay in society, which must be nipped from the bud if the situation is to be contained.
Would really wish to have a change of attitude and probably a change of culture on how we see women, the social norm that we have believed in our societies that women probably are not people of less deserving, or they're not equal to the task that are accorded in their society, or there are people that do not deserve to get any rights, So that is why we want to say that within this period for 16 days of activism against violation on women or this particular gender, we speak of safety for women across the globe and mothers also.
As we are celebrating these 16 days of activism, I would want to tell everyone to always speak up. Do not keep quiet when you're seeing violence happening, whether it's just as slight as, what has been normalized in the community. Always speak out. When anything is happening to you, to your neighbor, to someone you know or you don't know, anytime you see any gender-related harassment or gender-related violence, report it immediately. Everybody has a role to play. The policy makers, the community organizations like ourselves, the donor community, philanthropists, and thanks to people like Oxfam.
The 16 days of activism is an opportunity to revitalize commitment, call for accountability and action from decision makers. It runs from the 25th of November to the 10th of December.